Okay, this is going to be a little bit more about the solar eclipse, the total solar eclipse in Aries on the 8th of April, which happens conjunct Chiron, an asteroid which is associated with healing, health, and disease. And in my previous vlog, I was saying that in the periods in the 20th century, like the 1920 pandemic, the 1967, and COVID, Chiron was very prevalent at the April ingress. Now, I had someone over on BitChute saying, oh, well, it doesn't mean disease because there was no disease, blah, blah, blah. Now, I think that's irrelevant in a way because whatever you believe, whether you totally bought the COVID story, whether you like David Icke and said there was never a virus, or whether you're the in-between people who say that there was a virus released from Wuhan, everyone was talking about health, disease, and viruses for 2 years. So you can't say health wasn't on the agenda. Whether it was a pandemic or not, people talked about a pandemic from all different viewpoints. It dominated the global consciousness. So it makes sense that it was Chiron, right? And the other thing about it is when people hear constantly about disease, they get sick because it's not healthy. It makes people neurotic and they tend to obsess about health and they feel ill. And we know lockdowns had a detrimental impact on people's health, and that's even accepted by the normies, right? So there were health issues, right? There were also health issues because people couldn't get to a doctor. So even health issues non-related to COVID could not be resolved, potentially got worse, or people suffered. So health was a huge thing. Now, with this particular total solar eclipse happening conjunct Chiron, I feel that the whole health agenda is coming strongly back into focus. And I would like to just say this to paint the picture of what I think is going to happen. Now, do you remember early days of COVID? I was saying the testing was key and it would all hinge on the testing. And this was before David Icke was even talking about it. I just kind of had that feeling. And I think this, again, is about testing. So what did you have with COVID? You had a long list of symptoms. I mean, everything was COVID, from hay fever symptoms, cold symptoms, flu symptoms, headaches, nausea, vomiting. Everything was a symptom of COVID. So no one was really sure they had it, especially at the beginning. And then there were also asymptomatic COVID, right? So it covered the whole range. So what did people do? You had to have a test. And the test was turned up to 45 cycles, which is beyond what it should be, according to even the mainstream experts, giving many, many, many positive results. And when people got a positive result, they might have been put on a COVID ward if they were in hospital. They might have been offered treatment like remdesivir. There would have been a range of impacts. So I'm thinking, and you can see it there already, the Kate Middleton effect, visit to cancer advice websites and NHS advice pages surge. So again, cancer is one of those things. There's lots of symptoms. You can be asymptomatic. It's kind of hard to know. But what if there was a test? And maybe there will be a test soon. A test that could be, easily available, free even, sent to your door, and then you test and the tests keep coming up positive. Even maybe there are lots of false positives, and then maybe people get offered treatments. And people get increasingly neurotic, and you can see that whether there's a problem or not so much of a problem, we can have a perceived problem. And there can be, the cure could be worse than the disease or the lack of disease if the tests are wrong. So hope that was diplomatic enough for YouTube, but I did want to mention that. And that's how I see this whole thing playing out, without making any reference to anyone's individual health. Now, one more thing I wanted to say, just on the total, not on the total solar eclipse, on the potential sacrificing of the heifers on April 20. April 20 is usually the 110th day of the year. This year, it's the 111th day of the year because it's a leap year. I don't know if it's just a cricket thing that 111 is a special number, but it is a 3. I did look it up in the kind of gematria and all that, and esoterically it represents like the snake and the tail, evolution, a beginning and an end. I can't find the reference to it, so I will come back to it. But note, it says April 20 has historically been associated with tragic events, most notably the birth of Adolf Hitler, as well as the Columbine High School massacre and the BP oil disaster. So I'd say it's only 3 things. It's not the best reference for a day being associated with tragic events, but interesting that Wikipedia should call it that. But I don't think they really came up with fantastic. This is not conclusive. I mean, the whole history of the world, like those aren't the three most tragic events or whatever. Columbine and BP and the birth of someone who later did things that people say, but there's, debate over who was wrong, and pretty much everyone was wrong. So I don't think those are the best examples. But interesting that Wikipedia should say that. Okay, I hope you enjoyed my other video. I still have the one coming up on the solar eclipse. Take care.